Good morning. Today is October 28th of 2020. It is A Day, and in your virtual math module, this lesson is covering the do now, which is on page 93. We're looking at today at the question group 7 through 12. Please take note of the exponents rules that you need to remember in order to simplify these expressions, converting between rational exponents and radicals. Today I'm going to cover the odd questions in this group, and I will circle them to kind of refresh you with what we did do the last class period. So we'll look at number 7, number 9, and number 11, okay, together. Okay, so for number 7, okay, you have, this is the fifth root of 32y to the fifth power, all raised to the third power. That's how you say that. So I'm going to rewrite the question here. Our first step is to rewrite this radical and put it in rational exponent form. So to do that, let's keep our group in parentheses. And remember that you always put the exponent over the index. So all of that group is going to be raised to the 3/5 power. Okay, we're going to use the power of a product property, because notice this is 32 times y to the 5th. That's a product that is being raised to a power. So we're going to use this rule right here on this row. Okay, so everything inside the group gets raised to 3/5 power. So I will draw an arrow to remind you that 32 needs to be raised to the 3/5 power, and y to the 5th needs to be raised to the 3/5 power. Okay, and so here we know the fifth root of 32, if I take that and convert it back into radical form, I'm basically saying, what's the fifth root of 32 to the third power? And that can be evaluated. We know that the fifth root of 32 is 2, and 2 to the third power will give us 8. So that's the first part of your question. On the second part, you want to deal with the y to the 5th power to the 3/5 power. This is a whole number times a fraction. So I'm going to do a little pop out to the side. So that's basically 5 times 3 to the 5th power. If you care to put 5 over 1, you can. And multiply across the top and bottom. So that would go to 15 over 5. And so here you're left with 3. Okay, so y will be to the third power. I'll bring that down. And so your answer here is going to be 8y to the third power. Okay, so I thought that I would skip over number 9. Number 9 is very similar to number 7, other than you have two radicals with this form that are being multiplied, so you would have to use this strategy twice. So I'm actually going to skip that question and actually do number 11 and number 12. Okay, so going into number 11, this question is a little bit different because you have part of it that is already in rational exponent form, and part of it is in radical form. Okay, so we have the group x to the 1/2 power raised to the 4th power times uh, the square root of x to the 6th power. Okay, first of all, in looking at this, I can clear up uh, the exponents here because I'm going to use that property where when you have a power raised to a power, okay, a power raised to a power, then you're going to multiply both exponents together. So in that case, that's going to be x to the 1/2 times 4. And I'm going to put my 4 over 1. And then on the radical side here, I know that 6 is an even exponent under the radical, so I can cut that in half to free your variable. And so I know that what would pop out should become x to the 3rd power. We discussed that in class. Okay, so as a pop out, 1/2 times 4 over 1, multiply across the top and bottom, so that's basically x over 4 over 2. And then 4 over 2 simply is x to the squared times x to the 3rd power. And again, we're having to utilize these rules. When you have the same base multiplied, you just add the powers. So ultimately, here, our answer is going to be x to the 2 plus 3, which equals x to the 5th power. Okay, and so that is our answer for number 11. Okay, and so this is number 12. We have x to the 1/4 power, all raised to the 8th power, divided by the cube root of x to the 3rd power. Okay, in this question, you can handle the numerator and the denominator in part until you can simplify out to reach your answer. So for the top part, this is the same rule that we just used. A power raised to a power. You're going to multiply your exponents. So in that step, that would be x to the 1/4 times 8. And I'm going to go ahead and put my 8 over 1. And that's going to be divided by, notice that this is not an even exponent under the radical, so I'm going to simply put this back in rational exponent form, which would be x to the exponent over the index. Okay, and so we're going to work this way. So taking the numerator, multiplying across the top and bottom, that's simply going to become x raised to the 8 over 4 power divided by x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So you're only going to have an x on the bottom. And so let's simplify that. That's x squared, because 8 divided by 4 is 2, over x to the 1st power. And so now we have another exponent property that we have to remember when you're dividing numbers or variables that are the same base. You are to subtract the exponents. This is in the exponent rules properties. So that our answer is going to become x to the 2 minus 1 power, which equals x to the 1st power. So I hope you can see it doesn't matter how complicated the questions look. If you can recall the rules and simplify out, you can arrive to your answer. Okay, so this concludes our Do Now questions for today. Please be certain to make sure you show your work on all video lessons that I will record for you. Make sure that you're showing work just as it is demonstrated on the video. Because this assignment is in the workbook, you could put it on a piece of paper or write in the note in the workbook, but make sure your work is shown on paper and kept in your notebook or taped or stapled in your workbook for the do nows.